Wow, 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 wow. I'm gonna show you how I made my viral scarf dress. And it's called a scarf dress because I made it from a pile of scarves I found at Rose Bowl Flea, which happens to be my favorite place on earth. I always get like super excited when something goes viral because, I just do these things really genuinely for fun. So when you guys all really like it, I love being able to share my knowledge to help you be able to make your own. And honestly, it's not that hard. I feel like it may look harder than it is, but the fact that they're all squares already and the edges are sewn, it actually makes it quite simple. But I'm gonna walk you through everything you need to know in order to make your own. Let's get into it. Here are the supplies you'll need. So with my pattern, it's gonna be the front bodice and the back bodice with all the other details that you need for it. I didn't include the length of the skirt or the 2 tiers because why am I gonna make you do this extra work and tape together pieces of paper just to make a rectangle? But I've made it easy for you and I've calculated out the length that you'll need for the size that you're making. My only tips on scarves are gonna be just mostly stick within a color scheme. I think when you stay consistent with a color scheme, the final piece will end up looking a lot more refined in the end. As far as material composition, you can absolutely use silk, poly, whatever your body desires. You might wanna also wash them because, I got mine in a pile of scarves on the ground, so I definitely washed mine. So I did like an embellished strap, and you can definitely do just like a regular spaghetti strap if you want. I'm a little extra, so I went a little extra. For the lace trim, you can actually use lace fabric and then just cut that kind of like cute selvage edge off like I'm doing here. But there are plenty of options of just kind of like lace trim. You just want to choose one that is kind of sturdy so it can hold the dress, one without a lot of elastic in it. This isn't mandatory, but I highly suggest using a rotary cutter and a cutting mat. With the grids, it's just so much easier to be able to cut everything, especially in a straight line. And with the silk, it can get really loosey-goosey. So me and a rotary blade and a cutting mat, best friends. All right, let's cut up these scarves. For the top tier, you want to cut the small scarves in half. For the bottom tier, you just leave them as is. Another kind of important part of this is the way that you line them all up. And so again, you want to think about the tiers overlapping and how the colors are going to work on top of the other. And even with the bodice, since it's all patchwork, maybe the hardest part of this is figuring out which scarves get used in what area. But once all the scarves are lined up the way you want them, you stack them on one another, pin them, and then sew them with a regular stitch length. Once they're all together, then you want to do a gather stitch. And this is like the longest stitch length you can do. I just do one stitch on this since the fabric is so thin. You don't really need to do like the double stitch. Sometimes when the fabric is thicker, you need to, but this one you don't need to. So for the top, you obviously have the pattern piece for it in the size that you need. And then I use like the corner of it to be at the top of the breast. 2 front pieces, you sew the front seam together. With the back though, you don't want to cut on the fold. It is like mirror image, but you just want to make sure you cut one side and then flip it over and then cut the other side. And this is just because with the bias, again, things just get loosey-goosey. So when you start folding things and stuff and you start playing around with things too much, that's what can also start like altering the pattern. So when you cut it, you almost want to sew seams together just to get that stuff all like solidified. So depending on the lace that you get, you might want to leave a little extra seam allowance on the top part of the pattern piece. You can see how the lace dips down into the scarf. You want to give yourself some grace with that seam allowance. Once you get the lace pinned onto the bodice, you want to sew the peaks over the breast and also the lower back together before you sew it onto the actual dress itself. So I hand sewed my lace on because it was quite textured, and I don't know, I'm just a sucker for a hand sew, like it just brings me back to the good old days. You can definitely sew on a sewing machine, but again, with it cut on the bias, I would suggest doing a hand sew. It just keeps everything from like shifting too much. In this moment, you just have to trust the process. But once the lace is fully attached to the bodice, you can then go in and cut out the negative space. And again, you'll see how much it changes the lace pattern. Like it looks so much more sophisticated. We're getting so close to the end. All you have to do is sew on the 2 tiers of the scarves. And I haven't marked on the pattern of where to sew it. Again, you can, based off of your body, add those wherever you want. It's your body. It's going to be a little different. You're going to have to be short or taller. I don't know what your body is, but you do. So with this, you'll want to get that stitch length back up to a 2.5 or just kind of like whatever your sewing machine is, but just pretty much just like a regular sewing stitch. So there's measurements for how much length you need for the straps. But again, I always veer on the side of caution, and I like to have a little extra than I think I need. And what I do is I attach the one on the front first, and then I put the dress on, then I measure the back, and you can cut off the excess. Just leave a little extra. You can also be inspired and add like little bows or what other little bits that you want in it, and get creative and add, you know, your own little flair. I mean, look at that. Like literally a one-of-a-kind dress. And it is so cool, I gotta tell you. I was recently at the welcome party where I wore this to, and people are like, your dress, it's so amazing. Where is it from? And you're like, I made it. And then it's also like from a pile of scarves. It's just cool. It's just a cool thing to say. And I don't know, maybe you can make this dress out of other things. It doesn't have to be scarves. This is my tutorial on how to do it with the scarf. You can very well do it with like yardage, you know? It's up to you. Your body, your choice. The other thing I will point out is I'm kind of like a sloppy girl. Like, I'm not going for perfection. I'm just going for finished product and fun. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't really matter. It just needs to be finished. Joy matters more than perfectionism. I could talk for a minute about this, but the importance of just having something finished or working through something versus perfectionism. It's okay if seams are raw. We're raw as humans. So I don't know, don't worry about it unless you want to, but yeah, I don't really promote that. I don't really promote perfectionism. I am a victim of it though. Also, do you guys love my little mic holder? It's so cute. I actually got this at Rose Bowl Flea Market. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed my tutorial. And if you make this, please tag me because I really want to see it. And I also think it's fun for everyone else to see what other people make, because again, with the scarves, there's so many of them out there that I think that we're going to get so many different variations of this. Follow along because I'll be doing more of these on projects that I continue to make. Maybe some poodle content. Clicky to subscribe.